So Corkser, what is atheism?
Atheism is the lack of belief in God or gods. At its simplest, most basic form, it is nothing but the rejection of claims made by theists about the existence of God.
Aha. So atheists have faith that there are no gods.
No, that is not correct. Since theists are the ones making a claim about the existence of something, in this case God, it is therefore the job of theists to prove the existence of such an entity. When sufficient evidence is not provided for such a claim, the only reasonable stance to take is disbelief. You might think there is evidence, but if you have not convinced me, how could I possibly believe? And I ask you, do show me the evidence if you have it.
But atheists say God doesn't exist. Have you looked in every corner of the universe for God? Then how can you say God doesn't exist? Aren't atheists just agnostics then?
No, that is a common misunderstanding of the terms. Atheism and theism is about what you believe. Gnosticism is about what you think you know. The differences might be subtle, but they are there. Let me explain. You can be an agnostic atheist, for example. That means you do not believe in God and also think God is unknowable. If you are a Gnostic atheist, you claim to know there is no God. Most atheists would say the probability of the existence of God is very low, and if you push hard enough, everyone is agnostic about all kinds of claims. So it follows one can do the same with Santa or the flying spaghetti monster. Have you looked in every corner of the universe for those entities? Do you need to, in order to know they do not exist? You can also be an agnostic theist, meaning you believe in God but you think he is unknowable. And finally, there are Gnostic theists who claim not only belief but also claim to have knowledge about God. This is the position most theists hold today.
But atheism is just another religion then. Theists have belief in God, atheists have lack of belief.
No, again, atheism is the rejection of religion. Rejecting something does not make you into what you are rejecting. It is the lack of religion, much like it is the lack of belief in God. An exception might be Buddhism, which at its core in fact is an atheistic religion. Atheists have no creed, no rules, no tenets. A few of Webster's definitions for religion is the worship of a higher being and a set of belief and practices based on the teachings of a spiritual leader. Clearly atheism does not fall into this category.
But atheist regimes have caused the deaths of so many people during the last century. Atheism leads humans to do terrible things. How can one be an atheist when atheism clearly leads to genocide and violence?
It is true that Stalin and Pol Pot in fact were atheists, which I am assuming are the ones you are referring to. It is debatable whether Hitler in fact was a Catholic or not, but most of his soldiers who actually committed the atrocities were Catholic, like most of Germany was at that time. But let me ask you this question, because it frankly does not matter what they believed or did not believe about the existence of God, and I will attempt to show it. Do you honestly believe that Stalin, Pol Pot, Hitler and any other dictator of the 20th century would have stayed their hand if they had believed in Zeus? Or Isis? Then they in fact would not have been atheists. Would the belief in those gods have made them think twice about killing those people who they did not approve of? I contend that no, of course it would not have done so. So what I suspect you mean when you say atheism caused them to do what they did, what you really mean is, the lack of belief in your particular God caused them to do what they did. That is fair enough, but at least be honest enough to admit it. Say you are a Christian, let me ask you this. Has the belief in your God ever stopped anybody from committing atrocities? Take a good look at history before answering this question. I contend that no, it has not. We have all experienced 9/11 as well, committed by people who very much believed in God. The belief in God certainly did not stop them, it encouraged them all the way. So clearly there is something else besides the belief in God or gods or the lack thereof that causes people to do or not do these things. The truth is, certain types of humans have always committed crimes upon other people when the circumstances have been available to do them and when they have been put in charge unopposed. And they have found the best means and excuses to carry out those crimes. I would even suggest that the leaders of the Catholic Church for many years during the Dark Ages probably were not Christians but used Christianity to promote their goals and to enforce their power, much like the Emperor Constantine did. That however does not change the fact that the people actually committing the atrocities of the Catholic Church, the ordinary people and the soldiers, very much believed in God and thought they were doing the Lord's work. Were they wrong in their actions? Of course they were, but the point is, the belief in God did not stop them. Stalin may not have believed in God or gods, but he did enforce many other things. Things that seem very close to the way the Catholic Church ran things for many years, such as requiring unquestioning obedience under the threat of death, the suppression of free speech, indoctrination, lack of education out of the specific doctrine, the belief in a certain set of ideas that could not possibly be wrong. It sounds almost like a theocracy, does it not? Things that the free-thinking atheists of the modern world today certainly are not fans of. Go ask any of them yourself if they think Stalin had it right. But I say, let us condemn these actions together, theists and atheists alike. Let us not shoot the bullets of the past at each other. Clearly most Christians are nothing like the Catholic Church used to be during the Dark Ages, despite the fact that some of them have certain misgivings today. Those misgivings are in no way near comparable to the witch-burnings and torture of the past. Most Muslims are clearly nothing like the men behind 9/11, and clearly most atheists do not support the actions of Stalin, Pol Pot, etc. So let us stop shooting these meaningless bullets of history at each other and start looking at the world we have today. What do Christians, Muslims, atheists, etc. want today? What kind of world do we want to live in? We can look at history and learn from it. We can learn from the mistakes of atheists and we can learn from the mistakes of theists. That is how we will come to grow as a species. I do however have one last comment. Remember, when you use the term atheist to describe what a certain group of people do, like I have seen on many comments, you are implying that if they only believed in God or gods they would not do such things. Again I pose this question. Would they be better people and not do these things you speak of if they believed in Zeus, Isis and so on? If you, like I, contend that they would not, at least be honest enough to admit that when you say atheists do certain things, you really mean everyone believing differently than you. So if you are a Christian, say non-Christians for example. It seems so easy these days to just shoot the term atheist at people one does not agree with and thereby rendering their opinion less valuable. I say it is a cheap shot, made by theists, and an easy way out for them to ignore what atheists have to say. I would of course, say the same thing for atheists who use the big brush when addressing theists. Finally, atheism cannot cause you to do something because there are no rules telling you what to do, no morals laid out for you. It is essentially a nothing, much like the disbelief in Santa or pixies does not cause you to do anything. You cannot define someone by their lack of belief in something. Unless you want me to start defining people by their lack of belief in pixies, that is. When an atheist commits atrocities he might not think he is responsible to God, but he is responsible to the human race and to the judgment of history. Would you say history looks kindly upon the dictators of the 20th century? Does the free world look kindly upon genocide? History is their judgment.
Those might be some good points. Why don't we let the viewers decide and talk about it later?
Sure, fine by me. Any other questions?
Well, since atheists don't think God created the universe, who do they think did it?
Well, the question is not who. That question already assumes someone did it. The real question you should be asking is how was it done? That is the right question, and for now, atheists and myself will have to settle with I do not know. Because I do not and no one else does. Lots of theists claim to know, but if they cannot tell me how it was done, and carefully explain the details of this process of universe creation, they do not know much more than I do. It would be about as useful to say universe creating pixies did it by magic.
Okay. So Corkser, can I ask you, what are you? Do you believe in God?
Quite frankly, I do not know how to answer that question. First you have to define what you mean by God. Then you must demonstrate the existence of such an entity with the qualities you have assigned to it. If you cannot do that to my satisfaction, I will have no other choice but to not believe in your claim. As Carl Sagan wrote in The Demon-Haunted World about aliens, it is not a matter of belief but of evidence. For now, I prefer not to proclaim what I believe because I cannot defend it. and frankly, I would prefer not to say as well, because I do not want you to judge my words in the light of what I believe. I want you to judge my words by the value and meaning they have, not whether they were said by a fellow believer in God. I hope that makes sense. Basing your opinion of someone based on what they believe is both naive and prejudiced. The facts of history tells us that some people will do whatever they want whether they believe in God or not. If evil men believe in God, they will simply create an image of God in their mind that allows for them to do these things. It is up to the good people of the world to stop them. Actions are more important than beliefs.